is Kafero Gabriel, and I study from Kola Senior Secondary School, Form 2-1. So today I'm here to share with you a simple experiment. And this experiment we are going to talk about, or what I'm going to show you, it will be just talking about or explaining how water can be separated from sand, or how sand can be separated from water. So this process of separating sand from water, in scientifically, it can be called decantation. So remember, this separating of substances, they have different types of methods that are used. So for today, I'm going to use a decantation method for separating my water from sand. So as you see in front of me here, I have some things that are in front of me. So let me begin explaining them. I have here a spatula or a scoop that I'm going to be using. I have a petrol dish. Yeah, this petrol dish will be helping me to pour sand here, such that I can easily drop it into my beaker. I have here a beaker containing sand. You see a beaker, it's containing sand. I also have an empty beaker, an empty glass beaker, and I have my second glass beaker containing water. So as you know, our experiment was explaining how to separate sand from water. So here is my water that I'm going to use. Yes. So by beginning with this experiment, I need to first pour this sand in the beaker into my petrol dish here. So by pouring this sand into my petrol dish, I will just need a spatula here, and here as I pour my sand into the petrol dish. So I have to just put the sand that I'm going to be using for my experiment. I pour it in the petrol dish, but as you see, so I pour here my sand into the petrol dish, but this sand contains some big particles, including stones. So here I get my water, and remember, water is just a substance that contains hydrogen and oxygen gases. So this water has two particles, that is hydrogen and oxygen. So I'm going to use this water, this beaker containing water, such that I can add my sand here that I've got. So I get here my sand in the petrol dish, then I need to add it into my beaker containing water, such that I can get the clear and approximate method, or the clear and approximate process of separating my sand from water. So here I do it. I'm just going to get this sand. I'm just pouring into the petrol dish from the beaker of sand. So after separating, after pouring, so what you need to do next, you have to first look at your sand. Make sure your sand is very clear, and make sure your sand does not contain big particles, because these big particles may affect our result. So I need to just remove my big particles of sand from big particles, including the stones, from my sand. So I remove these big particles here. So after removing my big particles, the next step is to pour this sand into my beaker. So as I pour this sand into my beaker, what I have to do, I have to make sure that if I'm pouring, I have to pour carefully, such that I make sure my ground or my working surface is clean. So how is it going to be clean? By not pouring this sand onto my working surface, to make it clean, such that we can get clear and good practical. So here I pour my sand into the beaker containing water for our experiment. Don't forget that our experiment is just talking about separating sand from water. So after mixing this sand with water, so I think that will be enough for our experiment. So this remaining sand, I can drop it here and back, or let me just place it here. So here is my sand plus water. So what next? I need to mix these two substances that I'm from separating, that is sand and water. By mixing, I need this spatula, then I mix gently my sand and water to make sure that we can get a uniform mixture. But remember, these two things, they cannot be mixed permanently, or they cannot dissolve into each other. So meaning we may not get a uniform mixture of the sand and water, meaning that there are some particles that will remain of sand into the beaker. So after mixing, I need to leave just some few minutes for my sand here that I'm from adding to the water to decant. Remember, my process that I'm talking about today is decantation, and this decantation I'm going to use sand and water. And after getting my water that was in the beaker and plus my sand that was also in the beaker, I mixed them up. After mixing them up, I just stirred a little bit, so for my sand to just get a little bit mixed with my water. But you can see, as I told you, that these two substances cannot mix uniformly, meaning that what you need to do, all that small mixing, just to make sure that this sand is not permanently down. There's some substances up here, and as you see, I need to separate these two things. And by doing this, I need to first leave this my process a little bit or shortly for a short period of time for my sand here to decant or to stay at the bottom of the beaker. And remember, these two substances, sand and water. Now, for this sand is denser than water, or what I can mean, this sand is heavier than water, meaning that if I pour this sand in the water, automatically this sand will be supposed to go at the bottom of the beaker, such that this water is dense, is less dense than the sand. So what does that mean to you? It means that this sand here that we have poured, that's why it's down here. Remember, it's down because it's denser than water. If it wasn't, if this sand wasn't heavier than water, or if it wasn't denser than water, it would have been on top, or it would have been like, let me say, mixed. It would have mixed with this water permanently. But as you see, it is not mixed permanently. Just in case, this sand is just at the bottom of the water, and the color of water has changed. That's one observation. And the next observation is that the sand particles stay at the bottom of the beaker. So as you can see, you can zoom it here so they can see properly. Yeah, this sand here, you can see the layers formed. Yeah, we have some they are like 3 layers. Yeah, we have the first layer, that is the layer of the sand. At the bottom, we have the second layer here. It's a bit dark layer, meaning that layer contains some sand particles. Yeah, so we also have this upper layer of the water. Yeah, so remember, our experiment to succeed, we need to first wait for some few minutes for the particles of sand to stay at the bottom, such that I can get this upper water that I'm from just mixing with sand, and I drop it into my empty beaker, and I get my results of the sand and water, because I've just mixed them into one beaker. So I just need to wait for a moment. Yeah, so by waiting, you can see now, because I got this sand and I mixed it with water, and you can see the result that has given us. The sand has remained at the bottom. Yeah, so by this process, for the interest of time, we want let me say, we want to focus on the color of the water. Yeah, but our main point of this experiment is to separate sand from water. So I don't need don't take caution or much focus on the color of the water. Yeah, but we need to just to know or to see or to observe what has happened to our sand and what has happened to our water. Yeah, but as I've told you, that don't just take much focus for the color of the water for the interest of time, because it may take a while, let me say 3 hours or 2 hours for this brown water to change back into the colorless water as it was. So meaning that this sand contains just tiny particles that have mixed up with this water permanently or uniformly. So meaning that this water, that's why it has changed color. But for it to return back into its original color, that is it's being colorless, it may take much time, like 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, but for the interest of time, as you see, the sand has just decanted. So what I need to do is just to get this water, and I pour it into my empty beaker, as my rules say, of separating the sand from water. So I get here my empty beaker with the water here plus. So what I need to do is just pour this water into my empty beaker. As I told you, there are some layers formed here, as you see on the beaker. After separating these two things and just giving it time to decant, yeah, there are some layers. As I told you, there are like 3 layers. The first layer here is the layer of the sand, and the second layer is above the sand. It's a bit dark, so meaning some particles are contained in this second layer. Then the third layer, or the upper layer, is just the layer of the water. So let me get this water and I pour it into my empty beaker so that I can get the final result. But as I told you, don't just don't consider much of the color of the water. It can also decant, or it can, if you give it much time, like 3 to 4 hours, it can change permanently to its original color, that's it being colorless. So for the interest of time, I think I should just get this water, the upper water, then I pour it into my empty beaker. So here I get my mixture here of sand and water. But when I'm adding this water into a beaker, make sure that when you are adding it, you have to add it gently and carefully, yeah, to prevent this mixture that I'm from mixing again to rise out, mix again with water, because now it's separated. As you can see, here is the sand and here is our water. So I'm going to pour it into my empty beaker, for the final result. So here, as I pour it now, make sure when you are pouring, you have to be so careful such that this sand doesn't mix again with water. So here I pour my water into the empty beaker. Yeah, so you can now see. Remember, before this, I just got my sand, just sand mixed with nothing. Then I got my water here. But after mixing these two, you realize that the color of the water changed into the brown color because this brown color was contained by the sand. So after mixing these two, the color of the water changed to the color of the sand, that's being it brown. But you can recognize now these particles of the sand, as I told you, they are like a little bit huge, so they can't dissolve uniformly with this water. So as you can see here, the sand that had remained at the bottom is here, and you can see my water here. My clean water with no any particle of the sand, but the particles are there, of course, but they are very tiny. Remember, these particles, they mix together with the water and they make the uniform mixture. So after making this uniform mixture, also this uniform mixture can be separated, or it can be reversed to its normal. How? We should just leave this uniform mixture of our sand and water for some good hours, like 3 or 4 hours, for it to decant as well, and we get our final result. But for this case, you can see we just use sand and water. So these sand particles, remember, they are a little bit huge, so they had to just decant from the water. So meaning that these substances are denser than the water. That's why when I added them, or when I mixed them, this sand just dropped down. So that's how our experiment has gone of separating sand from water by decantation. Thank you for watching.